This is my second step of the toe for the express lane socks. I have done a provisional cast on of 32 stitches twice, 2 separate chunks of wool. I am now going to start the next step of the pattern. So if I had done a crocheted chain, I would join the main yarn, carefully pick up and knit 32 stitches in the back loops of the chain. So I think I need to do that row. For each sock I'm going to use a different color just for fun because I'm demonstrating, and I also have a different color of mohair for each sock to carry along with it. So for my first sock I'm going to grab my first yarn. So here's those held together. I'm going to tension them together over my hand. And now I'm just going to knit them across with my one needle. So I've got a circular needle, and I'm going to knit across my provisional cast on. Knitting, 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 knitting. We are knitting toe-up socks. So you can see the white mohair along with the main yarn. So that's why when you're choosing a yarn for reinforcement of the heel and toe, you can choose whether you want it to be a contrast color or a color that'll blend in. It twists up with the yarn, so it doesn't really show as much as you might think. Another thing is that you can buy sock yarn that already has some nylon integrated into it. I saw one thing on a thread suggesting that using natural materials like silk would be actually better than nylon because the nylon rubs against wool and might actually wear it down faster. I don't know. So I'm trying this mohair method. I think that'll be fun. That was suggested by Ambinitrix, who I think dyes beautiful yarn, and I would like to buy some someday. Save my pennies. Watch Etsy. Almost done with the initial row. So we are knitting across, because this is what we would do if we picked up from a crocheted chain, which is the provisional cast on that was suggested. So that's the first sock. Now I'm going to smoosh that along, put that yarn to the side, and grab the yarn for my second sock. This one I'm using my black mohair just for fun, so that we can keep track of the two different ones. So we're knitting two things in series, in parallel. I've been trying to decide which electrical current it's more like. Series is when it goes through one and then it goes through the other. So in that sense, it's in series, because you do one and then the other. But parallel is when the current starts on one side and goes through two different tracks at the same time. And so there's two separate paths that the current can take, and it's going through them at the same time. So I kind of feel like it's in parallel, whereas one sock at a time is series, because if you do standard sock knitting and you knit one at a time, you have to knit one sock and then your current of knitting goes all the way through the second sock. So it finishes the whole first sock and then goes through the whole second sock. Whereas when you do two at once, you're doing each individual row is in series, but the whole sock is in parallel. How about that? This is the sort of thing I think about. It's hard to live in my brain sometimes. So we are knitting a second sock at the same time as the first. And we'll see what different effect it has, whether we use black mohair or white mohair. If your sock has a dominant color, you can choose colored reinforcing nylon that would match that primary color. Okay, so that's the initial row done. Where'd my pattern go? All right, row 1. Knit to last stitch, then turn. So because we're doing two at once, we are going to do that. Bring our yarn to the back. We're going to knit to the last stitch, but we just have to do that across two separate socks. So I'm knitting the black and purple with the orange provisional cast on looks really Halloween-y. I love Halloween. So we're knitting. And so we're going to knit across these 32 stitches, but instead of turning after this one, we're going to go on to the other sock. So you see I'm still on the black mohair, which is the second ball I picked up. But this row, I'm doing that one first because I came to it first. So I'm knitting along. You know, I think the angle of the camera is different from the angle of my eyes, and so the video looks a little different than what I'm seeing. I feel like my thumb keeps blocking it. Sorry about that. I'm really a total amateur at this. I'm a professional of some things, but not a professional videotaper of knitting. They probably have really fancy videos or cameras for that, for knitting. I mean craftsy. Okay, anyway, so now I've done the first one that I came to, and now I'm going to grab my other yarn. I'm going to come across to my second one. And you see I have the white mohair now. Ooh, I'm really feeling glad that I have two different colors of mohair. It really helps distinguish it. So this is my white sock. Grab up my tension. And now I'm going to knit across that, and you don't have to watch me do that.